Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And in this one, I tried something very special. I tried to break the game. I made a Worgen Venthyr Druid. I combined werewolves, druids, and vampires. I thought that this would break the game. I didn't think it was possible for these three things to ever exist in a single character simultaneously, but it didn't actually break the game. And I did it. I made a Worgen Venthyr Druid. So here we go. This is going to be a review for Restoration Druids and which Covenant option is going to be the best suited for you. So I'm going to be going through the Covenant ability and the class ability that you get along with the talent trees so that you can make the right decision moving into Shadowlands, because it's basically like you're marrying one of these Covenants. You're not going to want to make the wrong decision. It's going to be a very difficult path if you do end up making a mistake. So the goal of these videos is basically to give you as much information as possible to make the right decision. And if anybody in the comments down below has ideas on top of what I'm basically elaborating on, it would be great. I just want this to be a resource for all of you to utilize. So let's just start off with the specific Covenant ability. We've got Door of Shadows. Now this is just a mobility cooldown, which you can talent to have 2 charges of it, or enhance it in other ways. So currently I have 2 charges of it, which means I can teleport twice. Possibly has some potential for trash mob skips in Mythic Plus. Has great utility for going up and down Z-axis like Blade's Edge Arena or Dalaran Sewers. You can just make it that much more annoying for melee DPS to ever try and touch you if you're running this double Door of Shadows build. So if that's something that interests you and you want to play around with, it is a strong cooldown in both PvE and PvP. Moving forward, we've got the class-specific spell, which is Ravenous Frenzy. It's a 3-minute cooldown. It would line up well with Incarnation Tree of Life, and you would always be getting those regrowths out, so you wouldn't run the risk of running idle, at least just by yourself. But if Tree of Life ends up not being a consistent build, there's not many legendaries really that are going to synergize too well with it. It doesn't line up very well as a Restoration Druid. You don't really have those 3-minute windows. Maybe an Innervate timing, so you can reduce the cost of all of your spells and then just get them out even faster. To me, in PvP with this spell, the downside of being stunned and taking a bunch of damage doesn't outweigh the advantage that you get. Now, in a dungeon environment, I think that Innervate, in a raid environment, the Innervate and this haste pairing could actually be really excellent for just getting out a huge amount of healing all at once. And then maybe at the end of it, when you've stacked up your haste and your healing, you go for a Tranquility. Now, I know PvE Tranquility might not be, it might be a meme, but perhaps you can make Tranquility a super powerful spell using this. And that's going to be your class-specific spell. To me personally, doesn't intrigue me as much as it would if I was a Feral Druid or a Balanced Druid as Restoration Druid, but we'll have to wait and see. The extra mobility on top of that might just put it over the edge in your decision making. Moving into the talent tree here, you're going to have 3 options. The first one, Naja Mistblade. Door of Shadows will disorient all targets nearby the enemy target, or nearby the location, for 6 seconds. This has already been nerfed. I believe it was 8 seconds, so now it's down to 6. You've already got Cyclone Diminishing Return, and there's a lot of crowd controls on that, specifically the Disorient Diminishing Return. But if you wanted to, it's a much easier Cyclone to land. You just Door of Shadows over to the target, you're going to be landing it, you can bash out of it. The other one option is going to be Door of Shadows increase your movement speed. You don't really need more movement speed as a druid, so generally you're not going to be looking to get that. Of course, do remember the conduits aren't available. I know there's a vendor over here, and just to show you, he doesn't have any yet. As soon as we get those, I'll be doing a conduit review. But what I would like to remind you is that if the conduits end up being very powerful, they might supersede any of these specific options. So if an endurance conduit ends up being overpowered compared to a potency conduit, you may have to go for the movement speed instead of the extra crowd control here. Moving forward, this is just a little more quality of life. You loot a little bit of extra stuff, not a big deal there, and no stress based on the conduit either, because there's only one option. Moving down to the bottom tier, the benefits of well-fed flask and weapon enchants are increased by 15%. A little bit uncertain as to what the weapon enchants are going to be like here in Shadowlands, but Coastal Surge in Battle for Azeroth, so it had a chance to add another heal over time effect, was very powerful throughout most of Battle for Azeroth. And if a weapon enchant exists like that again, the way that it scales with our mastery, this could end up being a good option for you overall. It's obviously strong in PvE where you're going to be benefiting from Well-Fed and Flask as well. Here we've got the duration of incoming interrupts, snare, and root effects. So we don't really care about the snare or the roots, right? Because we can shapeshift, but 25% less reduction on interrupts is pretty crucial when we're looking for cyclones. This could enable us to actually go for cyclones if we're not interrupted as long and don't run the risk of dying. This is, in my mind, the strongest PvP covenant option for Venthyr, is this 25% reduction of interrupts. Dauntless Duelist, the first enemy you damage in combat is marked as your adversary. Again, not a great benefit to you as a healer. It seems to me if you're going to PvE as a Resto Druid, you're running Exacting Preparation. If you're going to PvP, you're running Familiar Predicaments. And again, maybe not if the conduits end up being a big deal here. Moving down to the final tier, Thrill Seeker. While in combat, you gain a stack of Thrill Seeker every 2 seconds, or at 4 stacks on killing an enemy. Killing an enemy not happening too much in PvP. At 40 stacks, Thrill Seeker is consumed to grant you Euphoria, speeding up everything you do by 20% for 10 seconds. So this could have nice scaling effects with the legendaries. The legendary helmet to get 10% more healing over time effects. And then you could go for that Ravenous play with Innervade and just get out a huge amount of healing all at once. I see that being a lot of fun in a raid to try and get like a really high parse. But in PvP, depending on the pacing of the game, if Resto Druids are struggling or not, they've never been that kind of cooldown powerhouse healer, so it seems a bit strange to me to see this. And in my mind and with my bias from past experience, I don't see it being that strong, but that is the build that I would consider if I'm going to be going for the Venthyr overall here. It seems like Nadja is a pretty solid PvP pick. Moving down to Theodore, the Mad Duke. We've got Door of Shadows frees you from roots and snares. Again, we don't care because we're a druid, we shapeshift out. But this one, getting 2 charges could be pretty crazy if you just want to annoy melee DPS, right? Let's say you've had enough of these warriors, you've had enough of these death knights. Yeah, I don't know if they're catching up to you with 2 charges of this Door of Shadows. So it could be pretty hilarious, it being a flag carrier. So if you want to get into some battlegrounds, some rated battlegrounds, I see having 2 charges of this being excellent. You almost become a Vengeance Demon Hunter. So you could jump up and down on those Warsong Gulch platforms and maybe compete a little bit as a Guardian Druid in Battlegrounds. So something to consider there. But obviously this is a Restoration Druid review. Still in solo random BGs, I could see being a flag carrier. This would be really fun and jumping up and down platforms. But you do have Wild Charge, so you can do that already somewhat. So it would be more if you're a solo player. Moving down to the second tier, the effectiveness of combat potions. In PvE, maybe we care, but not so much as Restoration Druid. It's not like you're pre-potty and bursting down a pole, so maybe not too much value there. Your spells and abilities have a chance to call Tubbins and Gubbins to your side for 12 seconds. Paracel in hand. Standing in the shaded area grants you 10% mastery. Mastery is really powerful for Restoration Druid, so this is a nice benefit to boost up all of your heal over time effects. Downside is you have to stand in it. So if you're a target for crowd control when they jump in, Tubbins and Gubbins, and you have to stand in a bad spot to get the benefit, not that great in PvP. In PvE, could still have some downsides. Maybe there's volcanic or something along those lines, or just, the deadly fire on the ground, circles on the ground in PvE. So it could backfire on you there, but that's a lot of throughput, 10% mastery. Token of Appreciation. Grant a shield that absorbs 537 damage to allies who aid you with healing or beneficial magic effects. You will only shield each ally. So this isn't that great unless you're playing with some hybrids, maybe like a Shadow Priest. To me, the obvious sell is the mastery. You try and take advantage of it when you can, and if you can't, you can't. And you just do your best there. Or, depending on the conduits, you select one of these based on the conduits below. Moving down here to Life of the Party. During the Ember Court, you guess, so this is still just quality of life. Free transmog, so if you're a transmogaholic like me, free transmog sounds like a pretty good deal. Theator will send you an assortment of flavorful herbs, and then we still don't have the final tier. So this could end up being a strong PvP option with all of the added mobility, some extra mastery for the throughput, and then all the gold you're going to save with the transmogs, depending on what the final one could be. And of course, I'll be getting that out as soon as I have it available, the information available. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you are. I'm releasing at least one video a day. I'm looking to increase that over time here, so I'm trying to pump out as much Shadowlands stuff as I can. It's not going to be all Druid all the time. Moving into the future, I'm going to get as much as I can for all the other classes as well. But our final option here, General Draven. I wonder if he's got a personality complex like Draven from League of Legends. Kind of looks like maybe. Anima Infusion. Earning Anima improves your armor's remaining durability, so quality of life. Leaving resting area increases your mount speed by 10%. You're out of combat regeneration. Okay, so a little bit of, maybe if you're a world PvPer, this could be solid because you would just reset, you get into the next fight. And there is a new world PvP achievement and title. I'm forgetting the exact name of it, and I'm not sure what you need to do to get it, but if you're a world PvPer, this is a really good go-to. Neither one really benefits you for PvE unless you want to save some gold, right? So built for war, while you are above 80% health, you gain 1% intellect every 3 seconds, stack it up to 5 times, and if you fall below 50%. So this is a really good throughput pick for you as a Restoration Druid in PvE and PvP. You're basically just going to get 5% int. You shouldn't be taking damage in PvE unless you're standing in a mechanic, or at least very rarely will you be taking damage. So you should have this benefit most of the time. In PvP, if you're going to play with Warlocks and Shadow Priests, which I'm anticipating to be strong specializations, with Affliction's rework and Shadow Priest getting Devouring Plague and a lot of sustainability, I think that Affliction Shadow Priest could come back very strong, and Resto Druids could be a solid backup for those specializations. So getting throughput like this, that's just guaranteed 5% int, could be a solid option. Successfully interrupting an enemy, we only really care about dispelling an ally because we can't interrupt. Will increase your critical strike chance by 10%. Crit is reduced in PvP, it's not that valuable. And PvE, you'd get the Living Seed benefit, but how often is there going to be a poison to dispel off a target? Maybe very rarely. It would seem more wise to me, at least overall, to go for the Built for War. Hold your ground, standing still for at least 4 seconds grants you 10% increased stamina, 4% increased healing done. This effect persists for 4 seconds after you're moving. Again, this could be a good pick if you're going to be planning to play with casters, so Elemental Shamans, Warlocks, and Shadow Priests. Depending on how powerful they are, this talent tree is looking like a solid option for healing those specific specializations. But again, this could all be determined what the conduits are in the future. Enduring Gloom. Door of Shadows grants you a shield that absorbs damage equal to 15% of your maximum health, a little bit of extra personal endurance, or move as one. When a nearby ally gains temporary movement speed, you also gain the benefit up to 30%. Now, if you're playing with the Shadow Priest and a Warlock, they don't move too much, and again, you don't care too much about movement speed. To me, it's a pretty easy sell to the Enduring Gloom. Now, the final one, Ravenous Frenzy, grants 10% versatility to you and 4% versatility to nearby allies. Sounds like a solid pick in 2 versus 2 here. So maybe if you're running a Feral Affinity build in 2 versus 2, and you go for that Ravenous Frenzy, build up a ton of haste, and then try and go in for some damage, this could be a good kind of 2v2 build as well. But overall, it's a little bit, to me, it's a little bit less safe than just getting 25% interrupt reduction. That's going to be good in all PvP combat or content if you're looking for PvP. And then getting the extra benefit from enchants and well-fed and flask seems like pretty easy sell for PvE on top of getting that huge haste boost. To me, it's like Naja Mistblade. It's kind of like your auto lock for most content. Now, Theodore the Mad Duke could be the second pickup depending on what his final tier is, and then Draven perhaps situationally. But right now, Naja Mistblade seems like the solid pick overall. So I hope that the information in this video is helpful to you in your journey in Shadowlands as a Restoration Druid. My personal opinion of the Venthyr is that, much like a Worgen would want to avoid a vampire, I think Druid is going to want to avoid being Venthyr, unfortunately, unless things change, or when we see Theodore the Mad Duke's final talent tree. Right now, it seems like Kyrian, Necrolords, and Night Fae would all be superior options to that of the Venthyr. But we'll be going over Kyrian tomorrow, so thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and I hope you have a great day.